On The Expanse, he plays Fred Johnson, the butcher of Anderson Station. On the Orville, he plays Clyden, the June Cleaver of Mockless. Please say hi to Chad Coleman. He plays Isaac, the Orville's Kalon science officer. He's British, so he comes from a long line of British robots like C-3PO and that guy that plays Superman. I did that joke last year and I just love it. Please bring out Mark Jackson. John Lamar got a promotion this year from navigator to chief engineer. Ladies, he's single, but he's very insecure, so please show him some love. Say hi to Jay Lee. Lieutenant Commander Bordis, this gorgeous hunk of alien. I'm suddenly doing the dating game. Who looks great whether he's in his blue uniform or sitting naked on an egg. Say hi to the very talented actor who brings him to life, Peter Macon. He plays Gordon Malloy, our immature, often inebriated helmsman. He's nothing like that in real life. Oh, I read that wrong. He's exactly like that. Come on out, Scott Grimes. She plays Dr. Claire Finn, such a gifted actress. She was completely believable in a sex scene with a pile of jello. Give it up for Penny Johnson Jerald. Plays our first officer, Kelly Grayson. Talented actress who's also co-author with her brother Eric of the comic book No Angel, published by Black Mass. I have nothing but nice things to say about her because she can absolutely kick my ass. Please bow down to Adrianne Palicki. This guy, creating the Orville, kind of made his own Black Mirror U.S.S. Callister, where the rest of us work. Two big differences: we're not being held prisoner, and we get to keep our genitals. He is a gift to all of us and all of you. Captain on the bridge, Ed Mercer. Give it up for Seth MacFarlane. Hey, Seth.
Can I eat during this? They don't feed you here.
That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to ask you the first question, but you want to wait to take
That's fine. I'll open this afterwards.
All right, good. So what's your takeaway? The show aired. We did a season. Going into season 2, what were your big takeaways from what we did last year versus what we're going to try to do this year?
Well, for me, the nice thing, this show was a tonal experiment of sorts. Comedy and sci-fi, when you blend them together, don't always mix well. I think in features they do. In television, it's a little hard to sustain. So we were trying something kind of difficult. But the pleasant surprise for me was that the fans, the viewers, were willing to let us tell a story. They weren't waiting for the next joke to come every 3 seconds. They allowed us to kind of be a sci-fi show, which was really, at the end of the day, what this is. I mean, the comedy in this show was always intended to sort of be a garnish. And the other thing that was very gratifying is Look, different stories call for different tones. If it's a lighter story, your tone is light. If it's a heavier story, your tone's gonna be heavier. And life has different tones. Every day is different, and some days are bad and others are good. And you know, that variance from episode to episode was embraced by the fans. They really got it, and that was gratifying to see. And I think what you're going to see in season 2 is a show that is even more comfortable in its footing as far as existing in that Goldilocks zone. And you know, we didn't know what to expect when we started it, but this every episode feels like a movie. I think you're going to dig it. So cool.
I'm going to jump down to the end of the panel. Jon, you're new to the show this year, although you did direct Krill last year. And your credits, you know, just sort of talking about that tonal balance that Seth's talking about, not a lot of comedy in your credits before you got here. How do you approach that as a director? How do you approach coming to the show and doing your job?
Actually, no credits in comedy at all. Well, actually, when I know Brannon from 24, and he's the one that sort of brought me over and said, take a look at this show. And again, it was a little foreign to me. I've done sci-fi before, but never with comedy. And but then I looked at the script, I looked at the shows that they were doing, and I realized, look, this is just good storytelling. And if comedy is part of that good storytelling, then I'm in. I'm totally in. And I just really enjoyed having to do something completely different for me. And the Krill episode was really neat because I started working with Seth as an alien. The first, I think, 3 days, I hadn't seen his real face. He was just an alien. And Scott was great too because he was just funny to look at, period. I don't know what Krill outfit they gave him, but it had this kind of belly and his ears made him look like a mouse. And so I was like, wait, this is completely different. I've never really done anything like this. And so it was really fun for me right away. But I realized as we shot that last scene, if you remember the episode, it had a really serious message. And I thought, this is a really nice combination, something completely different than anything I've seen or worked on before.
It's worth mentioning too, before we get too far into this, that the look of this show in season 2 is really a step upward. It's very cinematic. Every hour feels spectacular, and a huge amount of that has to do with Jon Cassar. Who is one of the most talented people I've ever worked with in my life. It's for someone like me, it's very rare that you find someone that you can exhale with and trust. And I was a big 24 fan for years, and I've just been blown away by what this guy can do. He's truly one of the most gifted filmmakers I've ever encountered in my career.
So talking to the cast, I mean, you know, it's this sort of cliche, oh, we're like a family, but you guys are kind of like a family. Your first season on the show, anybody want to jump in about what this experience was like? Peter, was this your first sort of regular job on a series? I mean, yes, no? I don't know.
Like TV?
TV.
Oh, sure. Editorial things, or?
I'm just sort of asking questions about
yes.
like.
You know, I see these people more than I see my own family.
Yeah. And you like them.
And that's family. You know, not necessarily. It is my home away from home. It is my space family, my misfit toy boss client, and it's such a joy to having spent this amount of time with these people that you've grown to love, and you know, idiosyncrasies and just like, you know, habits and things that you don't like about them, and things you love about them. You're like, oh, I'm not going to talk to him that day. It's Wednesday.
You talking about me?
Yeah.
Want to get this out right now?
I said him.
I want to talk about
It is funny though, because I see you as Borders.
No one knows who I am. I come to craft services and like, sir, can I help you? Can I help you, sir? I'm like, yeah, I just want a donut. And they're like, no, it's for cast only. And like,
I'm on the show.
how'd you get on the lot? But I can work my way in every Wednesday. Wednesdays are my favorite days.
So when you're, you know, it's obviously not the hardest work in the world, but the,
What did you just say?
you're doing long days on the bridge. The bridge is a tough set to shoot on. You got to shoot lots of angles. You guys do anything to kill the time, make it? Scotty, Jay, you guys do anything to break the tension?
Specifically, Scotty and Jay, what do you do?
Well, we're right at the front, right?
Yeah.
So we get our close-ups out of the way right away. So we have to sit there for 9 hours while you all do your things. We did come up with we do like a TV show called John and Gordon at the Helm.
Yeah, at the helm.
I'm assuming it annoys everyone behind us, but and
we're like the host of like a morning show. And it's like, you're at the helm with
Hey, here we are at the helm with John and Gordon, and we have a special guest today, John.
Welcome, guys, here we're with the cast of the Orville. They're in space, doing space stuff.
Yeah.
See, Boris is still asleep.
Yeah, Boris is sleeping. He doesn't like us today. It's Wednesday.
Boris sleeps on Wednesday.
Classic Wednesday, Boris.
So we just do that, and it's not funny, as you can tell.
By the way, but seriously, we do it because we take the heat of being the annoying, let's keep the energy high.
Yeah.
Because when you're on the bridge for a long time.
It's awful when you guys are not funny. Like, come on.
But it wakes you up, man.
It makes me think.
There you go. So we just try to keep the energy high.
I've heard Seth on many occasions, just if we start that helm thing, and just under your breath I hear you go, oh my God.
and then when he does that, I go, I think we have a question from the audience.
Caller, you're live.
Penny, you like to keep the energy up as well. I noticed that when you come onto the set. I also noticed when you follow Penny on social media, she has a little ritual that she does.
I get my dance on.
What is that?
My morning dance on. If I wake up in the morning, I go to the hair, makeup.
Can you show us? Can you show us what that?
Okay, give me the beat. Give me the beat. Give me the beat.
Woo!
You were in fact, you were in Cirque du Soleil, were you not?
Cassar, I dare you to stand up right now. David, what's that podium hiding, David? Come on.
But do you guys get the joke?
Can you come to the blackboard and do this?
Yeah.
By the way, it literally says, please be aware that members of your audience may be under 18.
They know more about that than we do.
Yeah. They just discovered that just now.
I did.
Hey, Mark.
What you're feeling is natural, everybody, from penny dancing. It's okay, it's part of life.
Everybody just stand up slowly and hug your neighbor.
David, that could be your last question.
Yeah. I don't know that I need to do anything else.
Was there a question?
Mark? Yes. You there? So you're trapped in that costume all day. What process are you using to stay Isaac?
I tend to take a break as often as I can for being Isaac because he's so intense. Like, this guy is, it's like inhabiting the most amazingly intense skin. And obviously I'm really method, so if I did actually keep in character, these guys would be really freaked out. And as a Brit, I have a role to be quite dour and keep these guys in check, because if I was really funny, I don't know, we wouldn't get any work done.
You're doing a different show.
Mark is very funny.
I don't know. It's nice to take the helmet off now and again, which does happen as soon as I can.
I'm having trouble understanding you.
What was that?
I couldn't understand. It doesn't matter.
It's the accent, I know. I'm so sorry. I shall enunciate better for you.
Yes,
Thank you. Adrianne. You had some great moments last year. I think mostly about that episode where you're competing with Seth for Rob Lowe. Your favorite episodes, and I think
he kind of picked you in a weird way.
Yeah, Rob Lowe picked me.
I think he did. I don't know how I feel about that.
All right, I'll take it. I mean, I wrote the damn thing, so I knew what I was doing. Actually, no, I didn't write that one, did I?
No, you didn't.
No, so you know. No, thank you, Liz Heldens.
Yeah, you rewrote it.
It's funny because it's true.
I don't know if I had a question for you, Adrianne, but were there any favorite?
My name.
Did you have any favorite moments from last year where either you did or one of the other actors did on the show?
I mean, there's tons of fun moments. I think the Krill episode is probably my favorite thing. Good job, John. It's all you.
Yeah, that was a good script too.
Did you write that, Dave?
You wrote it.
Yeah, thanks.
I thought the rewrite of that episode was
That was amazing. Saved my ass.
We're still shooting that one, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh, that's the runner?
We really love doing this show, guys.
You know, one of the, I'm going to ask Peter and Chad, you guys are playing a couple.
What do you mean playing?
Yeah.
He's a method actor.
What goes into that for you guys? This is truly one of the greatest creations of the show that Seth created. Is that couple, Bordas and Clyde? I don't think we've seen anything like that on television or film. Really, it's interesting because when we audition other actors to play Mocklins, we show them what these guys do, and they still don't get it. Which means that these guys are doing something that is very hard. And I'm just curious, or. All right.
Thank you.
So what
goes into
does
it?
anything go into that, or is it just instant?
Well, first and foremost, when we're in the makeup trail and we both, get into our get-up, we do that dance that Penny was doing.
It's really hard for the makeup artist.
That's what goes into it. Peter and I are both classically trained actors. Peter and I, we love to play. We come from the theater. We love to play. So it's easy to go to work with this guy because it's 100% all in. And we are relying on our classical training, believe it or not. We really are relying on our classical training to really pull off what it is that we're doing. We have to be astute with language and tone and rhythm, and
that's the cool thing about what we get to do is that I feel like now, and forgive me, I feel like I live in Seth's head in some weird way. You hear me at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I feel like he writes specifically cadence-wise, sonically wise for these guys, and you kind of write in there, and it's all laid out for you, and why would you write this about me? But because it's I feel like he's paying attention to what we are stepping up to with the material, and it just kind of writes itself. I will say that I think Clyden shops entirely too much. Yeah. I have 2 pairs of slacks.
Excuse me, I gotta do something with that money you make.
Clyden is surprised to death. You been shopping again? Okay.
No, fashionista.
He's a fashionista.
But I want to jump in on that real quick as far as talking about approaching this from a classically trained actor. As there's a lot of jokes in it, and we have the sci-fi world, but there's something that I really noticed that they do that I think is just extremely smart. And one time I was talking to Peter about something random about the show, and he said, "Yeah, English is Bordas' second language, so I have to think about it as it being the language that I had to learn." And I thought about how sort of deep that was to approach a character like that, because Seth writes, and all the writers write very sort of poetically, and you can find the rhythm and the cadence, but I thought that was a really sort of smart way to approach the character. So, you know, as silly as the show can be, or, you know, people maybe not understanding the depth of the two characters, I think the people that do get it are like, they see the work that goes into it. So I don't know, I'm a fan, so that's it.
I'll give you that $100 when we get off stage.
No, but having the privilege, I guess, or the luxury of being in the room with the guy who heard it first, right? And so Seth is a wordsmith. He's like a conductor, right? And so, you know, what was it yesterday? How many takes did we do last night? It was like 50 takes of four lines. And it just...
So it was about $52,000 worth of takes.
No, we don't have time for that. But you know, to spend the time to get it right, and you know when it's right, you know what I mean? And so, and I feel like he writes that way for all of us, like the dry sense of humor that Borges kind of has, and Isaac's language, and John's language, and Gordon's language, all different. So, you know, it's like herding hairless cats, and somehow or another, you know that feeling. Anybody hairless cats? Anybody? But it has that feeling of specificity, you know what I mean? And so when you have an opportunity to work on language like that with the person who's like, and make sure you get that. Don't say can't. Say cannot. Was that good? Anyway, it's that specific, and it's a joy. It's a joy. 23, 20, 19, 18, 7.
Oh, we're counting down. Brannon hasn't had a chance to talk. Brannon, just talk a little bit about like our process as we got in the writers' room in season 2. Like, do you have any recollection of that? It was a while ago. But like, what do you remember about how we approached it? And
for season 2?
Yeah.
Well, the two huge changes were what Seth was saying earlier. The experiment was a success.
Right.
So then in season 2, I think the storytelling is even more assertive and bold, and really there's some daring stuff that happens, some narratively daring stuff that will really, it's just amazing to me. And I think the other main thing was when we were writing season 1, we didn't have the cast. So you're imagining who's going to be playing these roles, and once the actors get into the roles, it changes everything, the way you're approaching the characters, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a huge difference. It's such a great cast, perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, why don't we, I see we only have like 20 minutes left, so why don't we line up with the mics to ask questions, take some Q&A. Somebody's already there. Over there? Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
My question's for the creative team. The Orville definitely feels like a love letter to the Star Trek universe, which we definitely appreciate as fans. But you can be a fan and know not everything was always perfect. And I'm wondering if any of you saw something in Star Trek that you wanted to fix, that you pulled over to the Orville.
You know, there are two things. I mean, the first, there's never anything I thought needed to be fixed about that. I was a fan when I was a kid, and still am. But I think the absence of a version of that kind of show that does what they used to do, something that's optimistic, bright, forward-thinking, episodic, you know, that doesn't really exist right now. And so there's a space that's kind of been opened up for that kind of show to occupy, and I missed that kind of storytelling, and it was a void that I was trying to fill with this show. I think the thing that feels new to me about the way we handle this genre is that, you know, there is a certain rigidity to most shows that take place on a spaceship. There's a certain operatic quality that just kind of goes hand in hand with that genre. And I had never really seen a show, and, you know, the next generation kind of dealt with it to some degree, but a show that really kind of casualizes a lot of what goes on. Because in reality, if you were actually serving on a ship of this type, there'd be downtime where you're just kind of shooting the shit and you're just kind of slacking off and being casual. And that's something I hadn't seen. And you know, the attempt was to sort of give this very operatic genre a sort of Albert Brooks kind of grounded tone in a way that was a hybrid that I hadn't seen. And it took us a little bit to kind of find that balance, but I feel like we did.
Thank you. And thank you for the optimism.
Hello there. So I've noticed with some shows when they first start to be marketed, they're marketed one way and then the show kind of becomes something else. And the Orville was an example of that show. So I was wondering, when this show first started, when it was marketed, then as it kind of, the season started to go, did you mean for it to like, kind of like start very comedic and then just kind of go more dramatic, or did it just kind of happen naturally?
No, the show was always intended to be what it is now. I think the marketing spin initially, and look, I'll say this by saying, I think the work that the marketing team at Fox did on this season is stellar. I think they just did a knockout job with that trailer. Initially, the show, I think, was a little misrepresented in season 1. It was marketed as a comedy. I'm not as a hard comedy. I'm not quite sure why. I think there was, you know, maybe a little bit of worry that this was something so new and weird and different that it wouldn't land if it wasn't put into a box. And you know, it wasn't necessarily representative of the show. But the nice thing is, the fans stuck with it and they saw what we were and what tone we were, you know, the tonal balance that we were riding, and they embraced it, which was nice to see. But I think initially the show was a little bit misrepresented.
Well, thank you very much, and I cannot wait for season 2.
Hi guys.
Hey.
I wanted to know what it was like working with Jonathan Frakes.
He's back this week.
I'm working with him right now.
Yeah. We've been freshly fraked.
He's an actor. As an actor, he's an actor, right? So when he's an actor, DP, passionate, nut job. Like, roll up and run.
He is a nut job.
And he's great, and he's specific, and like, he, you know, because we were working last night, and like, again, I got stuck in the weeds, and like, I literally could not, you know, just get it right, and he's just there, and like, he's like, you know, I was watching him, I'm like, can you stop moving? But he was feeling the words. So as an actor, it's great, because, you know, he knows where you are and what's going on. He's in it with you, you know what I mean? And he's like, you know, sharp and you know, he sings opera and weird songs that I don't know.
He has a form of set Tourette's, which I really admire. It scares you into acting. It's brilliant.
But it's like being in a master class with, you know, with a master, because he understands, you know, like the shots he's trying to get, and he only slightly makes you feel like a dumbass. When you do things, you're like, oh yeah, I really did just step in that whole big old pile of elephant dung, didn't I? Like, hey, there, but I'm gonna tell you about it. But he's you know.
He never compares it though. He doesn't say this is how we use it.
Well, he said Scotty stepped in like it was like, you know.
How could you do that for me?
Why? Hey, did you read that? So, from an actor, he's an actor's director, and it's great to know that you have somebody, you know, who knows what you're doing, and he loves it. I can tell he loves it because he inhabits it. So it's so great.
We like him.
Yeah, energetically wise, he brings it. Like these long hours, and like, you know, he's constantly, you know, brings this energy. I don't know how he does it. But also like shooting bridge scenes, which can take the longest. Nobody knows a bridge more than that guy. I mean, you know.
Right?
So that's the most fun. You're
And if you ask him nice, he'll say red alert whenever you're on.
do a lot if you ask him nice. I'm just saying.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Coaching, I was talking about. Thanks, guy.
Next.
Hi, I was wondering about the episode Majority Rule, which bases everyone's life on social media, and where you got the inspiration for that, and what you think of China kind of going the same way.
You know, that was, it's funny, I remember we wrote that episode the summer, I don't even know what, was it 2 years ago?
I don't know.
And we thought we were all innovative, and then like 5 months later, the Black Mirror episode comes out. Everybody's going to think we're... But it's clearly a common concern, given the fact that two shows, you know, touched on this independently. So I think it's, you know, look, it's incredibly creepy. I mean, I think there are good things about social media and Twitter. I think there are certain groups that we've seen a speediness of acceptance for certain marginalized groups that I think without the unification of social media would have taken a lot longer than it has. And so I think that's the positive side of social media. The downside is it can become a mob very quickly, and oftentimes does. You know, you got to look up the Justine Sacco case, and that's a perfect example. But yeah, I think it's very creepy. I think that's, you know, we're not evolved enough as a species yet to not fall into the to not succumb to the rush of joining a group that is ganging up on another group or individual. There's like a weird rush that gives a lot of people when they become part of a mob. And so I think it's too soon for us to independently govern ourselves in the way that social media attempts to.
Top.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Oh no.
You have a question?
You were at the Cosmos panel too, weren't you?
I was, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Seth, this is for you. So, you know, you cut your teeth in animation, and as you start to expand your EP portfolio, how do you find the challenges of working with, you know, live action, especially now in sitcoms, since you've already kind of, you know, bled it into the, feature film area? When you're working now in sitcoms and dealing with a crew an extended period of time, not in booths, what challenges have you find? Even licensing, I'd be interested in that.
Well, you're dressed like the Riddler, but you have the affectations of Anderson Cooper. What are you talking about? It's like a talk show host. Okay. But give me the short version of that question.